The Oklahoma Sooners get another wide receiver back in the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire, and on today's show, we're going to talk about what the national championship and college football playoff means for Oklahoma. What did we learn from the 12-team tournament? We got some early power rankings coming out on Monday for the 2026 season, so we'll break that down a little bit as well. But the Oklahoma Sooners got a guy back in the transfer portal, Ivan Carreon, deciding to withdraw his name and return to the Sooners.
Yeah, it appears that Carreon went out, did a little shopping out there, see if there was some options, and Oklahoma reached back, said, "Hey man, we'd love to take you back. That 6'6" frame can't be taught." So he decided to make a return, which I'm very happy about too as well. Yeah. Parker Thune him and Brendan Drum reported it earlier today, and that warmed my heart to see that Oklahoma was able to land him back. He was one of the ones I really wanted to come back. Him, Zion Kearney were definitely the two that I would have loved to have had back on the roster. Zion has committed to Wisconsin, so we wish the best to him since we don't face him. Wish him the best. But Carreon coming back is huge. 6'6", 224 pounds. Like I said, you can't teach 6'6", and I know that he's done some really good stuff with that size and frame in practices here at Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's not a guy that's played a ton. He played a lot more his true freshman season than he did this past season. Mm-hmm. But he showed you in the Navy game when he went 7 catches for 77 yards that he's capable of being a player that you can rely on in the passing game. Now, I know it's Navy, but a developing player that's continuing to get better and better. This year, we didn't have as many injuries, so there was less opportunity for him to work his way into the lineup. But he is a nice piece to your depth chart and helps round that out, providing you another option that, again, has been with the Oklahoma Sooners. He'll be in his 3rd year, his 2nd year in Ben Arbuckle's system, and that should help him continue to develop and grow. And I think this is a good move for both sides to keep a guy that wants to be at Oklahoma, keep a guy that Oklahoma wants to have at Oklahoma, an Emmett Jones recruit. And he mentioned it, and, you can go read Parker Thune's article over at OU Insider, but he mentioned how he wanted to be with Emmett Jones and that Jason Witten coming to Oklahoma was kind of the icing on the cake a little bit. So it's an interesting turn of events, but it's nice to have guys like this back because Ben Arbuckle was very complimentary of him from the going from the offseason to fall camp about how much he'd worked to transform his body to be able to contribute more. Now, we didn't really, again, see him get to play a whole lot, but let's just keep an eye on him because there's going to be opportunities. If Oklahoma decides to rotate their wide receivers a little bit more, he's going to get an opportunity to play.
Yeah, he adds to the height dynamic that you have at Oklahoma that you've been excited about. So you bring in your freshman ZZ as well as Jade Pettit. They come in at 6'4 plus. So you got those two height guys. You got Manny Choice, who's also 6'4", and now Ivan Carreon comes in here at 6'6", and then Parker Livingstone is also 6'4". So you're maintaining the giants while also having the fast guys to go around them as well. So look, I can never complain about us having height. But yeah, he did an official visit over at Texas State. Obviously, that didn't work out for him. He decided, he wanted to come on back, and it's good that the Jason Witten component of it, though, is kind of interesting. It makes me feel like he's trying to consider going to the tight ends position. But I'm going to be honest. I look at them shoulders, them hips.
He's too
like he can put on the weight. He's too narrow for that.
Yeah.
He's more of a vertical guy or catch it in like the red zone. So, but I do think that after the Navy game, him going 7 catches for 72 yards, he has the ability to catch the ball at the high point and get open enough just because he's a big frame. He's just got to continue to refine that in his route running. And I think he can do that hopefully this summer.
Yeah, I think he's a solid player that you can continue to work with and try to develop. And
Yeah.
again, he adds to the two deep. He's probably going to be behind Parker Livingston and Trell Harris on the outside. Right there with Jermichael Carter competing for snaps at outside wide receiver. I'd be curious to use him as like a big slot. If that's something that they'd have any mind to do, because maybe he doesn't have the frame to be able to go in line and block defensive ends, block linebackers in the run game. But you put him in the slot and you make nickel cornerbacks come up and try and guard him. Well, you want to run it against that front, and he's going to be able to power those guys. Or you use him over the middle of the field in the same way that you might use a tight end, just having him split to the slot. I think that makes an intriguing option and possibility for this team. Again, he's not going to get starter snaps because you've got your starting wide receiver trio solidified. But when you go 4 and 5 wide, you're going to have to find somebody else that can come in and contribute. And Ivan Carreon, he's shown that he can contribute.
Yeah, he'll give you that part. He can contribute whenever he's played, but he's only played like 71 snaps this in his career so far. So he hasn't played a lot. He's coming in a cleanup duty. But I know at some point they're going to want to leverage that height and take advantage of it. But at the same time, he still has to show us that his skill, that he's refined, right? He's got to show in practice that not only does he know the playbook, but he's out there busting his butt to be able to get open and make things happen. Again, I mentioned this about some of the other players that we've liked to see or whatnot. In practice, one-on-one drills, heck yeah, you can dominate. But in the flow of the game, that's a completely different animal. That changes. Sometimes you're a decoy. Sometimes you got to block. Sometimes the ball's going to come your direction, or it could come your direction. Because of that, you got to give that same effort constantly, and that's typically what holds people back. I'm not saying that's anything that's holding back Ivan Carreon, but I'm pointing out that that's sometimes why you don't see certain players. Like practice, they're probably dominating people, but it's really about the little details and the little things they do in order to contribute to the flow of the game. But again, I'm still interested, John. Tight end, Jason Witten. I mean, I guess for him being from Odessa, Texas, he understands the Dallas Cowboys. He understands Jason Witten. That may be the draw, but I really don't hope that he doesn't think he's going to play tight end.
No, and I wouldn't make the switch at this point. You've been a wide receiver at the collegiate level for 2 years. You played 190 snaps as a true freshman. You were one of the few true freshmen that they actually relied on because of all the injuries. They felt like they could trust you, and you got 71 snaps in year 2. So this is a guy that has the potential at wide receiver to be a Mike Evans type. Just continue to refine some of those things that you got to refine. Continue to get stronger. And I think that's probably the biggest piece right there. Get stronger. Be able to be physical at the catch point, physical, blocking on the outside, and not be disrupted in your route concept so that you can get down the field and get open. I think that's probably the key, is just getting stronger and being able to use your frame to your advantage, because he has the chance to be a 225 guy out there running routes. And we've seen what Mike Evans has been able to do at that size. It's not all the time that 6'5", 6'6" guys have a ton of success at the NFL level or at the collegiate level, but you can find them. And listen, Carreon, he's proven to at least be a hard worker and someone who's going to be about the grind.
Oh, 100% agree. And that gives us 6 guys over 6'4" now on the roster. That's sign me up. I'll take more of that, please.
And again, it just benefits your depth chart to have a guy that's been in your system for multiple years. We've talked about it at multiple times on this show, where having continuity has helped the defense so much, but you haven't had that continuity as much on the offensive side. Well, this helps you have more continuity on the offensive side of the ball. All right, we got early power rankings for the 2026 season. Those came out even before the national championship game was over. So we're going to break it down. We got USA Today Sports and On3 that really like where Oklahoma's at heading into the offseason. Coming up next on Locked On Sooners. Hey, college football season might be over, but the NBA, Major League Baseball is right around the corner, NHL. You can get all your tickets for every event that you're looking for over at Game Time. They give the advantage back to the fan. They make the buying experience so easy, and that's why I like to use Game Time. I open the Game Time app to look at upcoming games and events, and I'm surprised at how fast it can be to find great seats. The app is incredibly easy to use. You can go from browsing to buying in just minutes. And the zone deals, they pick the section, or you pick the section, they pick the seats, and you can save even more. So go take the guesswork out of buying tickets for your favorite sporting events, your favorite concerts, comedy shows over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you want more Locked On Sooners and more Locked On, go check out the Everydayer Club at lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer club. You can get ad-free audio access across every major podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you like to download and listen to podcasts. You can also get access to a members only chat through an app called Discord, where you can talk ball, you can talk puck, you can talk all kinds of sports across the Locked On network with Locked On experts and analysts, as well as the everydayers from around the world in this Discord chat. You get a members free or members only invite to that. You can talk shop with Jay and I. You can ask questions. You can get some of that inside info that sometimes we come across. Listen, there's not always nuggets, but we might get a little bit. And Jay might fight with you if you got something negative to say about Oklahoma.
Squabble up.
Or hey, but there's a lot of great chats that are happening over there, and very few trolls. And that's one of my favorite things about the Discord chat, is that not a lot of people that aren't there just to talk ball. And that's pretty fun. So go check that out. LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer club for $5 a month or $50 a year. LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer club. All right, Jay, we got some power rankings from USA Today Sports and On3. The folks over at USA Today Sports like the Sooners a little bit better, ranking them number 6 in their way too early power rankings, and On3 has them at number 10.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So the first one, On3 at 10, the JD Piquel statement basically is that, I'll give you the Cliff's notes. Brent Venables is for real. He definitely has earned at being an SEC coach, and his defense should be consistent. The question is the offense going to be able to take that next step? And if they do it and they get a run game going, JD Piquel saying playoffs and SEC title run. Totally can see that. That's kind of the whole point of all the pickups that we've seen that this staff has done here in the transfer portal. And we pointed it out. The staff likes their roster. This roster got them to 10 wins. They need to move forward. The thing we felt like held it back, passing game, run game. Well, the line is going to be more seasoned. You add an additional component to grow with that, but the line is now seasoned, and they look better in running later in the season. Your running backs need to be healthy, but they look like they'll be healthy, while at the same time, you're not going to have 2 running backs that aren't playing anymore that are healthy, right? You've got 2 healthy backs, plus you're bringing in more backs who will actually play this year. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah. You don't have to worry about them waiting to transfer out. Mm-hmm. On top of that, the wide receiver room just needed a little bit of a refresh. You add a proven talent to go with Satania. Satania proved himself. You added Trell Harris, who has been proven. He was one of the top receivers in the ACC. He was the top receiver for Virginia, who threw the ball a lot. Yeah. So he had a lot of opportunity. And then you bring in Parker Livingstone, who looked like someone that was going to possibly be a special player. And then Texas kind of kicked him out. So you've got it. You got guys that can get open. You got guys that can make catches. Now just material needs to get it to him. And I have faith that he will. When he didn't have the messed up thumb, looked good. Yeah. Now he needs to go back to that. We need the Michigan version to come back. We saw it a couple of times. We saw glimmers of it, John. So glimmers of the material that was the Michigan version. He needs to just be that for the rest of the year. And I think he can if he stays healthy.
Oklahoma's run game finished 113th in the nation in rushing offense, and they averaged 3.5 yards per carry. 3.5 yards per carry. Do you know who we tied with in rushing offense?
Who?
I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. Oklahoma State. That's how bad the rush offense was for Oklahoma in 2025. So I bring that up only to say this,
That's disgusting.
Jay, that if we can get to top half of the nation in rushing offense,
just top half,
that's going to make the offense better. That's going to make this team better. And you're going to have a chance to win more games. That is the biggest difference. We said all offseason last year, right? In the 9 months from when the Armed Forces Bowl ended and the beginning of the 2025 season ended, we said if Oklahoma's offense improved, it didn't have to be a top 30 offense, but if it improved, this would be a potential team that could win 10 games. And lo and behold, they won 10 games. Now, if the run game improves, again, it doesn't have to be a top 20 rush offense. Now, it'd be great if it is. I'm not going to say that it doesn't need to be. But if it can grow to becoming a top 70 rush offense, a top 60 rush offense, that makes this whole thing work so much better.
Yeah, we don't need to be the number one run game. Now, granted, y'all, we would all love that.
I'll take it.
I mean, you will take it. Now, luckily, both your backs have gotten 100-yard games in the SEC, so they understand how to get 100 yards in an SEC game. With X-Rob getting it against Ole Miss as well against Tennessee, Torrey getting it against South Carolina on the road, you know that they can do it. Now they just got to be consistent about it and also be healthy. But I like the idea of Jonathan Hatton also getting an opportunity to get some carries. Y'all know how much I love me some Jonathan Hatton. He is one of the best prospects, I believe, at running back we've had since Adrian Peterson. I will say that out loud multiple times. He's huge, and he runs like it, and he's fast, and he's huge. I mean, you coming in 6'1", 220 already as a true freshman. I'm just saying. Now, do I think he will be Adrian? I don't think he will, but he's about as big when it comes to that, just because the talent is so there visibly. But outside of that, though, John, I'm looking at the next one, which we got to talk about, is going to be USA Today, who really, really likes Oklahoma. Now, granted, Texas is number one on their sheet, so, take that for
Not
whatever.
surprising.
Indiana's number 4,
at all.
and they just won the national championship. Trying to figure out why we're going to do that to Indiana. I mean, Indiana should be number 1 because they just won the natty, but that's just how I roll.
And they're bringing in Josh Hoover, who is no slouch at quarterback. So
another quarterback that throws the ball very well and throws the ball a lot.
Yeah.
Basically fits what Indiana's trying to do. But for Oklahoma, number 6 on their ranking. So number 1, Texas. Number 2, Ohio State, of course. Number 3, Georgia. Checks out. Number 4, Indiana. Still very weird to say Indiana's in the top 5, but, it's Indiana. 5 is Notre Dame, and then 6 is Oklahoma. And the biggest thing they point out is, now, I got to ask you this, John. How much do you agree on this? The defense will carry over this year's gains if a less deep but very talented line gets a boost from players such as former 5-star PG Adebaware, who came back from the portal. He went in and withdrawed out. But they said the secondary might be the best in the SEC. John, how do you feel about that?
It's really early to disagree with it because I don't know what the rest of the SEC secondaries look like, but Oklahoma's going to have one of the better ones. I know that. I know that they're
bringing back so many players.
Ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they'll be up there. Like I don't know if I can call them the best without looking at the rest of the rosters and depth and, returning production and all that. But with Eli Bowen, Cortland Guillory, Peyton Bowen, and Michael Boganowski, I feel great about it. Reggie Powers as that cheetah, 5th defensive back. I feel great about the secondary, which is a crazy turn of events after what we felt like this time last year.
Well, how the turntables. That was the first thing I was thinking about. It's like, look at this. The defensive line was considered the best in the SEC. Shout out to Cole Kublik. And it proved it 100%. When he was in town for the Alabama game, the first round of playoffs, at the live showing by the Oklahoma Breakdown. That's what he said. He's like, hey, look, I said that they were the best one. And, I mean, they look like it. And we was out there killing it. Now, you add to that, you take away R. Mason Thomas, but you add in Taylor Wine, who just really was cooking with it. But that secondary, Cortland Guillory, true freshman, beasted it. Eli Bowen, now true sophomore. We were concerned he wasn't even going to play this year because of that ankle injury he had in camp. Then he ended up having to have ankle surgery, right? And then you're like, all right, when do we get him back? Probably close to the SEC play at Auburn. Man gets out there, balls. Then he gets his another pick six. Gets him a pick six against Alabama. And you're like, all right, looks like Eli Bowen is back. But that's the crazy dynamic. You still got Jacoby Johnson, right? Like JJ Newcomb is still back there. He's coming off of, I guess, a shoulder surgery. He comes back healthy. The secondary has a really good chance of being, Davon Jordan was a big piece. JJ Newcomb and Davon Jordan were about the same dude. That, to me, they were the same dude, talent, speed, strength, all of that. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that Oklahoma may be up there in not only the secondary, not only defensive line, but also in the secondary.
Yeah, the defense to me, I think, has a chance to still be really, really good. Now, you don't lose Art Mason Thomas and Grayson Halton without having some questions about will they take a bit of a step back. But here's the thing. Even if they do take a step back, Oklahoma can still win a lot of games because the offense should take a step forward.
Yep.
Again, you're going to get more complementary style football. You don't need your defense to hold teams under 13 every single week in order to have a chance to win. That's why Jim Nagy, Brent Venables, and their respective staffs got aggressive in the transfer portal on the offensive side of the ball, is because they knew they were losing key players to their defense.
Yep.
So you have to bolster the offense to match that. So listen, I feel good about it. Would I rank them 6 right now? I don't know. I haven't dug that deep, but I can't argue with it. You have a lot of really impressive pieces coming back, and I expect John Mateer to be better next year than he was this year. So
simply put, we returned 8 starters on defense, and what was that?
Kind of 7,
8 on the offense. You upgraded your tight end room, which is what you really needed to do with veterans, and now your youth can actually grow. It's kind of hard. The returning production is going to look really good for Oklahoma going into this season.
I want to ask you this question for tomorrow's show, Jay, and we'll leave the people with this because I talked about it a little bit while you were out of town last week, but how much a second year in the strength and conditioning program will benefit Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje and Eddie Pierre Louis being a year older, Heath Ozida being a year older, Fasusi and Foje being a year older. Like, what I want to get your thoughts on how much that can help the offensive line improve. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. But coming up next, we have a national champion. It's the Indiana Hoosiers beating Miami. What did we learn that we can apply and hope for Oklahoma? Coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks to you, the everydayer. We appreciate y'all so much.
We love you.
So yeah, Indiana, they went through a magical season, finished at 16-0, winning the national championship. Jay, I feel like there's always something to be gleaned from a run like that or a playoff performance or really just the whole 12-team bracket. What are some things that stood out to you from the postseason that you think Oklahoma needs to do better or needs to happen for the Sooners to be able to go on a run and win a national title?
Continuity in staff. You got to keep people around for a bit. That's the one thing. One of the big misconceptions around Indiana is, one, everyone talks about how old they are. Well, their starters, yes, on average is 23 years old. I think that's what it was. Miami's about the same age. I think they're like 22 and a half or something. And if you go the full roster, Miami's actually older than Indiana. If you go full roster, I think it's like 21 and a half on average to 20 and a half on average. So it's like a whole age or like 8 months or something ridiculous. Miami's older overall. That's kind of the point. Big thing though that Indiana has, a lot of people don't recognize, is the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator have been with Kurt Signetti since he was at IUP, which is like 5 years ago. Same OC, same defensive and DC, and a lot of his position coaches are basically the same dudes that's been with him since like Elon and JMU. Brent Venables didn't have that on the offensive side. Had it on defense because remember, he brought Chavis, he brought Bates with him. He knows Brandon Hall. He's known him for a while, brought him over. Valai was the wild card out of everybody that came in there, bringing in Wes Goodwin, who was underneath Brent Venables at Clemson. Nate Driley's kind of the wild card semblance of a lie, but he had that continuity and people that know him and know everything and understand how things need to go. That's why the defense so quickly was able to gel. For Lebby, offenses can be a little bit easier, but Lebby came out there and was killing it, but then he left. Seth Luttrell hire was definitely not a good one. And then you bring in Ben Arbuckle, it's going to take him going into his second year in the SEC to figure things out, him and the players. And so that's kind of where you kind of see the difference in it. But Indiana came in here with so much continuity, made it easy. Now, Oklahoma does have a chance this year, in my personal opinion, because you've still got you got all of your staff. You brought in some really good players. Now they need to work together and make it happen. And truth be told, they got a good opportunity to do it in 26.
Yeah, I think that continuity piece is a huge part of that. That's why I've argued like keeping Ben Arbuckle around, keeping John Mateer around. That's huge for this program because you've got to build that continuity out. And you want to hope that you can maintain your offensive coordinator situation for several more years. I don't know what Arbuckle's aspirations are, how quickly he wants to become a head coach, but the longer that you can keep him around and continue to build that offensive continuity, the better. The more people get used to the language, the terminology, the system, the concepts that he wants to run, that trickle-down effect of understanding grows deeper and deeper. That's what we've seen on the defensive side of the ball, from Danny Stutzman being able to pass it down to Kobe and Kip, and Kobe and Kip being able to pass it down to Owen Heineke, and now Kip taking the lead. So having that continuity matters. The thing that really stood out to me, just like from the national championship game, because you saw both quarterbacks kind of struggle in this one, but what helped them so much is that they actually had run games that could pick up 5 yards on a carry or an 8-yard carry. They could run for chunks, and they can lean on those run games when the offense or when the quarterbacks weren't really getting the things that they wanted to get in the passing game. So I think that's the area. I mean, we talked about it quite a bit in the last segment, but Oklahoma has got to figure out the run game. And it can't just be all on John Mateer running the football. They've got to figure out how to be productive with their running backs.
That's going to be the most critical thing is you've got to get the run game going for Torrey Blaylock as well as Xavier Robinson. And on top of that, just get the good push in just running in general. When we did that, you saw them breaking out for 9-10 yard carries. You start to see them run down here and get some good stuff going. But you got to do that consistently. And I think we can get to that point. It's going to take some work, but I think we can get to that point. The good thing is, again, the continuity on the offensive line is so important. And having guys that have been there together, working together, this will be year 2 for them, right? Like I say, EPL, this will be year 3. And that's where the consistency came in for Indiana. The difference, though, is, too, they've been going through quarterbacks like crazy. Curtis Rourke was the first one. He just came in as a transfer play. Now they brought in Fernando Mendoza. Next year they bring in Josh Hoover. So they're just plugging and playing these quarterbacks, and everybody else around them know the system. Now the quarterbacks just got to go out there and figure it out. Luckily, they're older quarterbacks, so that does help because they get an understanding of college. I don't know if Indiana's ever going to develop a quarterback from the ground up. That, to me, is a big question I'm curious about. Oklahoma's got to prove that, too. That's the one thing I would love for us to do. I would love for Bo Bentley to end up being a quarterback that starts and finishes his career at Oklahoma. Heck, Jet New, that'd be nice if he does it as well. With Neubauer, you don't count because you're transferred too. Yeah. So I'm really curious to see if Bo Bentley can end up being the first one we've done that since what? Man, when was who was the last one?
Was it, Blake Bell?
Landry Jones?
Blake Bell started and finished his career at Oklahoma, but he finished it as a tight end.
Right.
So he had Landry Jones.
It's got to be Landry Jones. I think Landry Jones is the last one to start and finish here because everybody else has transferred out or transferred in, right? You got 3 straight transfers with 2 straight with Baker and Kyler, and Jalen. 3, and then Hurts. So that's 3 straight. Yeah. Caleb comes in and bounces. Spencer Rattler comes in and bounces. Yeah, Dylan was a transfer as well, and he ended up playing somewhere else too. Yeah, you haven't done it, Jackson Arnold. Yeah. I'm hoping we get that.
Here's my counterpoint to that. In the last 2 national championship games, the starting quarterbacks for all 4 teams were transfer quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'm totally here for that. That makes sense.
I wonder at what point we'll see the recruited, committed, signed, developed, and stayed all at one place reach the national championship game. You look at the top, what was the top 6 teams over there at the USA Today Sports, including Oklahoma. So you're looking at Texas, recruited, developed Arch Manning, Ohio State, Julian Sayin, Georgia
Transfer.
was he a transfer?
Yes, he played from Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he transferred his freshman year. As soon he got there, and as soon as Saban retired, he bounced. So Julian Sayin is a transfer.
So what did he ever actually like go through a spring with them?
He
was he there for a full year?
Yeah.
Okay, I totally missed that. Okay,
yeah,
so transfer.
Yeah. Julian Sayin is yeah.
Okay, but then you got Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. Now Indiana's going to have a transfer. CJ Carr, he was a Notre Dame guy.
I think he was a actual recruit.
Yeah. And then
he's starting quarterback next year, won't he be? Won't he?
Yeah,
he's a freshman. Be. Yeah. So yeah, he's theirs.
Now Texas Tech brought in Sorsby from Cincinnati, but A&M's got Marcel Reed. And then Oregon's going to be rolling out Dante Moore again. And then Miami is the number 10 team in USA Today's power rankings, and they're probably going to be getting Darian Mensah. So there's a lot of those top 10 teams, maybe like 6 or 7 of those top 10 teams that will have guys that they recruited, signed, and developed going into next year. But again, they've got to elevate their games if they want to get their teams into the national championship game. So
yeah,
it's going to be fascinating.
It's going to be very fascinating. And it's a very common thing, right? It makes sense to be able to transfer in quarterbacks because you're just looking for a dude that can come in, run your offense, and go. And some of these quarterbacks, if they don't think that they're quote unquote refined enough or ready to go pro, they can go ahead and, make some good money playing and pushing for a national championship.
Well, and
kind of win-win.
There's something to be said for just, hey, you know what? As opposed to spending a bunch of money to sign a kid out of high school, we're going to use that money to sign a kid out of the portal that we know can play, at the collegiate level.
That's true.
There's something to be said for that. But we're hoping that Bo Bentley can break that trend and start and finish at Oklahoma and just go ball out. So, all right. Any other lessons learned from the national championship game? Final one here. I got one. Go ahead.
Got
Special
one more.
teams. Special teams doesn't have to win you games, but it cannot kill you. Miami may have won this game, save for a blocked punt that turned into an Indiana touchdown.
Yeah.
3-point margin, and Indiana gets a touchdown on special teams.
Yeah,
on poor execution. It was just poor execution by the Miami punt blockers. Like he didn't even give much of an effort there on his responsibility, on his assignment. And so it's like the smallest margins can be defined by special teams. And as we saw in Oklahoma's loss to Alabama, you can't let special teams hurt you. You got to break even at least.
At least try to. And that's kind of important, but special teams are critical. And we've seen that even on our team. That's the one thing that we've done a very good job of. And I hope that we continue to focus on that. We got Titanium Leg coming back. We need to redeem himself after the playoffs. So let's make it another good year.
Yep. All right. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Go check out the Everydayer Club, lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer club for ad-free audio, for a members only invite to a chat through an app called Discord, where you can talk with Jay and I, and many more across the Locked On network. Go follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner.
It was nice to see Kurt Signetti actually smile.
He actually did smile. I'm surprised.
Happy for him.